So welcome everybody to the 10th Small Business Impact webinars being delivered by Ku-ring-gai Council, supported as part of the Small Business Month by the New South Wales Government. And today we have Campbell McKay, who will be talking about negotiation. And this is a really important issue, positioning your business in the right way so that you can move forward in a positive way, in a profitable way. So Campbell has 25 years of public and private sector experience across tourism, advanced manufacturing, health, and other areas. And he brings a wealth of experience that will help his presentation today. I won't hang around any longer, Campbell. I will hand over to you. Just a quick note, everybody, questions in the Q&A box, please. Comments and observations in the chat. Hopefully you'll get some really interesting and useful information that you can apply very quickly to your business and your planning for your business. And we'll be finishing around 11 o'clock this morning. So Campbell, I will hand over to you.
Will, morning. Thank you to everyone else online. Morning. Thank you very much for sharing your time this morning. It'll be about 15 minutes. I'll go through exactly as the slide details, negotiating, then gaining value. It'll be 5 steps. And exactly as Joe mentioned in the last presentation, this is all about a process. So a process that's repeatable, that in turn gives you value. The very final slide in the presentation will detail exactly these 5 steps. It'll share my contact details. And if you've got a mobile phone, I'd recommend you grab it and snap that last slide so that you will have this checklist and it will be available for you whenever and wherever you need it. As Will mentioned, welcome your comments, welcome your questions, and there'll be about 5 minutes in the end so we can address those questions as we go. Just a quick introduction in terms of the group I work with. It's called Realise Business. It's a not-for-profit. It was established in 1989. We've worked with over 200,000 businesses. We're funded by the state government and we provide low-cost advisory services to these businesses through the Business Connect program. Our mantra is just empowering people to successfully run the business. Will was kind enough to introduce me and to reiterate, it's 25 years. You can see the grey hairs, there's plenty there of public and private sector experience. Tourism, you may be surprised, it's very, very challenging space, but also very fruitful at the moment for those that are embracing the challenges. Health, obviously that's a strong sector in Ku-ring-gai. Technology, financial services, and the professionalism in sport. And that experience just comes into establishing new businesses, restructuring existing businesses for long-term sustainable growth. So businesses that will be there beyond challenges like these. So let's get right to it. The very, very first part in terms of understanding the value and negotiating to that point of value is who you're negotiating with. Preparation and perspective are key. And I can't emphasize this strongly enough. This isn't speaking to the idea of doing days and days of research. This is really just moving into considering the social and commercial presence of the party that you're negotiating with. Consider their profiles, their financial profiles, what information that you have available to you through Credit Watch, credit scores. Embrace Google search, ARBN lookup, but fundamentally invest your time wisely to get to know the other party. And in terms of that other party that you're negotiating with, just think about, is this a business to business transaction? Is this a business to customer transaction? Very subtle difference, but in terms of the value that each of those parties are going to receive, obviously it's different in that commercial context. Suppliers. If you're negotiating with suppliers, there is a point of influence. That scarcity is key. And you just need to think about the stakeholders involved and how they influence those discussions. Think about a longer term potential partnership in terms of, is this the first step in a longer journey? Think about the value that the counterparty can offer. And if it's a partnership that you're looking to develop, just think about those small compromises you could make that will build up the goodwill, and that goodwill will yield value for you as you evolve into a strategic partnership. Think about the history of who you're negotiating with. Consider both your and their presence and how you've dealt with each other in the past, and where you would adjust for this current negotiation. Also consider the industry, your local industries. As I mentioned, healthcare and social assistance is strong in Ku-ring-gai. So just consider, are they part of that community? And what influence do they have within that community? So the next piece, and I'll dive into this a little more, this is more along a project ethos, and it's trying to understand what is it that you're trying to address in this negotiation of value. So you need to establish the need for the solution that the other party has, and obviously what you're offering. And I'll dive into that first point a little deeper in the next slide. You'll need to go through and just justify the need. So just think about what you're bringing to this negotiation and the effort that you're bringing to that negotiation. And is that aligned to your goals? Don't drop into a rabbit hole and go off on a tangent if it's not within your core business. So in terms of chasing these opportunities to negotiate and exchanging the value, just think about the need, and is this fundamentally aligned with your business? And what are the desired benefits from this negotiation? And how will you measure the benefits from this negotiation? And how will you ensure that a solution is implemented? So these are very deep questions, but it's just going into that negotiation and thinking about the mutual perspective of both parties. And then contextualize the problem that you're looking at and the opportunity that you have to negotiate. So think about the approaches that they may have tried, and so too the approaches you may have tried in this negotiation. And think about the internal and external constraints that you may have. And do you have the money and people to implement the solution? In terms of the communicating the problem statement and just being able to specifically identify what it is that you're negotiating and specifically identifying what the outcomes are. You just need to understand who are the problem solvers that you're bringing into this situation, what's the key information that they need for that situation, the incentives that you need, and then how will the solution be evaluated. The third step gets to an even more fundamental need. And this is a question that comes up many, many times as I'm working through with clients. It's that alternate position of desire and needs and wants. So the respective motivations for this exchange. So the element of necessity on both sides of the situation. It's one of the questions that we often find we work through with clients on, is just asking yourself that fundamental question: is it a need? Is it a want? And how do I test that? One way to test it is just to consider, are there risks associated with the choice? So then you revisit in terms of establishing the need. Once you've worked out if there are risks, more often than not, there are risks associated with needs and less risks associated with wants. It's the desire, it's the aspirational. So we go into establishing the need. So what is their basic, fundamental need to which you're delivering a solution, or to which they're coming to you for the solution? What is the desired outcome? Who stands to benefit and why? And then you're justifying that need a little further. Is the effort aligned with your business strategy? What are the desired benefits for the company? How will you measure them? And then how will you ensure that the solution is implemented? This is the real crux of the 5 steps in terms of the value. And this is just going back to that key element of negotiating the value in 5 steps. When we talk about value, it can be in different forms. Obviously, we're very aware of the commercial value, but that often goes beyond the dollars, and that's the in-kind. So often when you're having the negotiations, you'll find that in-kind value, time, your team's time, your time, can be as valuable, if not more valuable, than the pure exchange of dollars. And you think about the value proposition. If it's an exchange of dollars, what's their value that you're proposing to them, and what's the value that they're proposing to you? And how compelling is it? And again, are there needs? So the products and services deliver fundamental elements of value, and there are 4 kinds of needs. And it starts at the very beginning in terms of a functional need. So you and I, and how we have our functional needs, very basic needs, our sustenance. And then we move to the emotional needs. And then we move to the aspirational, which is the life-changing. And then the peak is obviously with social impact. Social impact's being spoken quite highly at the moment, quite a topical, almost a buzzword, but it doesn't come unless you've addressed those underlying points of value. Once you address those functional, emotional, then you can move to the social impact. But there's no point negotiating on social impact if you're not dropping into those fundamental levels. So if I was to rephrase that slightly, think of the ease of doing business. Think of their individual value that they may have for a situation or within a business negotiation, and then all the way through to the aspirational aspect. The 5th point comes down to when will value exchange? The immediacy versus the longevity. As the 2 terms imply, this is very much about the timing, the concept of delayed gratification. So timing is absolutely everything. Then consider, if it's a commercial exchange, in that timing, think of the cash flow implications of when there will be the exchange in value in the negotiation. So if you think about producing a product or service, as a result of the exchange of that product or service, there'll be a point at which that's exchanged. So if it's a cash for sale basis and you're retailing, then that exchange will be as the person exits the virtual store or as they exit the physical store. Others, the value exchange may be a longer term proposition. So then there might be invoice terms. So payment will be delayed for a time frame, or if there's delivery of the service over a time, then payment will be delayed. But just think about how critical the alignment of the cash flow with the service will be. and how that'll impact your exchange of value. Consider the alignment between yourself and the other party in terms of the timing, in terms of the cash flow, and in terms of that point of exchange. Are they looking for a short-term immediacy when you're offering a long-term solution? So it's just that alignment between the two elements. And then extending on this point a little further in terms of the gratification. So the key in terms of delaying the gratification is that it may give an opportunity for the recipient or the counterparty to build an understanding or appreciation for your product or service. And in terms of building that, to experience it, to test it, and then there'll be potentially more value. So you'll see often that there's the 30-day money-back guarantee. So that's in terms of the minimum standards, but in terms of repeat clients and the ability to seek more value for the service that you're offering and the time that they will need to experience it, just think about the delaying of that gratification. So this is the slide that I was referring to in terms of the opportunity to negotiate, then gain value in 5 steps. This is the summary slide, which refines the need for a process, that the process is a time-efficient process, which is key. So that's going back onto the first one. We don't want you spending massive amounts of time going through the exploration and understanding with your client. But this needs to be a repeatable, time-efficient process, exactly as Joe said in the last webinar, so that you can realise value, that you can repeat. So if you have a moment, grab your phone, take a photo of this slide, and it'll step you through those 5 repeatable steps to negotiate, then gain value. So the first of which is, who are you negotiating with? Know your client. Many institutions focus on this due diligence piece. The next one is, are you solving the right problem? So we touched into that in terms of the methodology, the project methodology. Then we touched on the respective motivations, the needs, the wants, and what's the risk element that's associated with each of those. That's your ultimate test. What is the value? Is it in kind? Is it commercial? Dollars, timing, opportunity for delayed gratification, and then when will this exchange? As we mentioned, there's the opportunity, if the value increases over time, how do you align the payments with that? So I trust that this has given you a quick 5 steps. There's my details, and Will, you're back.
I'm back, and thank you for that, Campbell. I've got a quick question that's come through from Nadia. She's trying to work in social media and marketing. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants instant results for low cost, but getting customers just doesn't work that way, and I end up doing too much for free. Can you help? What are your thoughts on that, Campbell?
Yeah, Nadia, tough space in terms of the social media, and it's the timing of the exchange. Many of the colleagues that I'm working with take the individuals on the journey. So just take the businesses on the journey. The most important thing is, how are you exchanging the value? So is this a verbal? Is this a written? And how much of your recipe are you handing over? So Nadia, when you have a moment, just think about that recipe and your secret sauce, and how much of that are you handing over, or how much of that are you discussing with the clients?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and this idea of sharing too much and then people getting too much for free is a real problem, and I've certainly seen that in a lot of our local businesses, particularly in areas like marketing and social media, because people ask the question and then people drip feed them information and they ask more and more and more. And it's very difficult for people to say, hang on, why am I sharing all this knowledge with you for nothing? It's a real challenge. Campbell, what are the biggest mistakes do you think people are making in this space?
Honestly, I think it's undervaluing their time and the offering of that time. So dollars are great, but the opportunity to earn the dollars only comes from the availability of time, and that scarcity of time is the most challenging thing. So more often than not, what I find is if you can allot yourself time and schedule yourself time during the day, be very disciplined to that, and then give of your value when you're ready to.
Right.
Yeah.
So the old time management, and I think about it was mentioned last week, from the rocks, the small and the large rocks, if you know that one, Campbell, from which was the seven habits of effective people. Have a look that up, everybody. It's a really interesting way to manage your time, and also where people have been having this issue, have you seen any simple solutions people have implemented to pull them out of this mire?
Yeah, and the very simple one is just laying out your 5-day, your 7-day schedule, putting in your not negotiables. So the not negotiables is looking after your self-worth. So that very foundation of time with family, time for yourself, and then just really granulating how much time do I have to work. And it's not age old. In the mornings, you bring the value in, and in the afternoons, you obviously administer and send the value out.
Absolutely. Nadia's followed up. Read time and undervaluing, that's what my husband says. Anyway, also, should we charge per task or hourly? I've had problems with both systems.
Yeah, Nadia, the hourly tends to be on a service agreement, so that's a longer term engagement. So then it's a matter of understanding how long term will clients be with you. On an hourly basis, it obviously just gives them that snippet and gives you the opportunity to really just draw in. On a product basis, you're really starting to lose that value. If there's a specific solution, it's going to be difficult. In your space, Nadia, in terms of that social media, I'd certainly recommend the hourly.
Sure. And just you talked about the motivations between wants and needs. Can you give a good example of how that's how people have really got a grasp of that and used it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I was just touching on, Will, before we went live, was the idea of a shuttle bus operator, and they've moved from a shuttle bus operating servicing the cruise liners or the airports, where there was a fundamental need from someone to get from home to the airport. And where they've had to shift their business is into being tour operators. But as tour operators, that's a need. So it's nice to be able to leave home on a Friday night, go down to the Shoalhaven, have a weekend with the family and come back. But it's not fundamental. It's not constrained. So it's that idea of the constraints or the risks. So if I went back onto the airport shuttle, what's the downside risk if the airport shuttle doesn't turn up? Well, obviously they're going to miss their holiday. What's the downside risk if someone wishes to go down to the Shoalhaven for a weekend? They're going to be agitated, but yeah, exactly. Well, there'll be less angst. There'll be plenty of angst, but it won't be as risky a proposition.
Yeah, you're looking at a larger investment and a smaller part of the international holiday or the across Australia holiday via the airport than if you're just doing a local. So yeah, okay. And you talk about what is the value. Do you mean that value to the customer or to your business?
Yeah, and that value side is when you mention and ask the question in terms of the greatest mistakes, it's very much what is the value from yourself and just holding yourself and believing in yourself with that value, and then obviously exchanging that value and having others to see it. So when I touched on the communication point, it's and Nadia, this is where you come in to absolutely add that value proposition. Is if people are struggling to communicate that value, that's where the social media comes in, just to represent that value and convey it accurately, succinctly, and in the way that the person wishes to receive it. So, for example, a 20-year-old client will receive that value communication very differently to myself.
Yep.
So it's choosing your audience and then the ability to exchange.
Sure.
And
Sure.
believe it.
And I believe value is very much about confidence in both yourself and your product or your service. And certainly, I've been running these kind of sessions for a number of years, and you often see people who are hugely talented and very able, but they don't necessarily believe it, and therefore they're struggling with that value proposition because they're not sure if they really believe they have that that skill, whereas others who are perhaps not as skilled, but they believe in their product or service, can be more successful financially because they will stand up and say, hang on, I'm not going to give all this to you for nothing.
And Will, that's where mentors, colleagues, peers, where you can just practice that pitch. You can practice the terminology, even within your family. Practice it with your kids. It's quite enlightening when you try to explain to your kids what you do every day. And then they come back to you. So it's just that ability to communicate, having others to reference. And have those really honest and frank discussions. And you'll be surprised once you refine it a little, you get your 30-second pitch down pat. That value will ooze, that confidence will ooze. And, it'll be a beautiful experience for you.
Really interesting because working in government, I'm often dealing with people writing a lot of very technical information, and they don't understand why people aren't engaging with it. And that's because no one understands. The technical people understand, but the public don't. And I think that's really important. Don't assume that everybody knows what you're doing and what your value is, because asking your kids or someone who perhaps isn't so intricately entwined in your business, it may not mean anything to them. So I think that's a really important thing you mentioned, Campbell, is testing what you actually do and make sure people understand it. Nadia's added a few more comments. She said, hard to guarantee that marketing will work fast to get new customers for them because it often doesn't, despite the skill of the marketer. Maybe I'm just too honest. Maybe.
It's the initial question. So how will you know whether or not they're successful? And that's a really pertinent question to ask the recipient, Nadia, that you're working with, is when I am successful in my social media, what is it that you're looking for to demonstrate that? And really have that honest discussion with them. Is it 10% increase in product sales? Is it that more phone calls? Is it the engagement on the Google Analytics? So it's just working through what is it that we're looking for that's going to confirm, Nadia, the excellence that you're delivering.
And I think that I hate to use the term KPIs, but managing those expectations, as Campbell just mentioned, is because then you all know what you're up against and what you're trying to achieve, and also you can tell them that if that's what they want and you know that you're not going to be able to deliver it, then you're going to be wasting your time working with them. It's really important. And does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? So yes, agree on KPIs. Great, Nadia. Just be careful that they are realistic. I think is really important, because there's no point in setting a KPI that you can't achieve, because you'll just be setting the wrong expectations with your clients. Campbell, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
Will, just a thank you to you, thank you to Nadia for the questions, and thank you for the rest of the listeners. I hope this final screen gives you a point of reference for a robust process.
Great.
So really appreciate your time, Will.
Thank you, Campbell. And just to reiterate, as I do every time, Campbell works with Realise Business, who deliver the Business Connect program in New South Wales, well, in Eastern Sydney anyway. Please, please investigate this. This is four free hours of one-on-one advice. Now, if you don't take it up, I don't understand why you wouldn't take it up. It's free. You'll get something out of it, I'm sure. And, you know, after the 4 sessions, it's now heavily subsidized and it's $40 an hour, is it, Campbell? Is that the correct?
Yeah, that support extends for those who can demonstrate COVID impact.
Yep.
So then, yeah, it's just a matter of how impacted you are.
Okay.
At that point, absolutely, it's a very, very efficient means and very cost-effective means.
Yep, absolutely. And I've spoken to a number of businesses over the years who have participated, and they said it was really worthwhile just having that fresh set of eyes looking at your business. And we have a wide range of there's a wide range of advisors who specialize in everything from digital marketing through to cash flow accounting and all of that, everything in between. So please check it out. Go to the Realise Business website or Google the Business Connect program and get involved. It's there. Please use it. Also, just to bring your attention to the Service New South Wales Business Concierge program, they can help and advise you and direct you towards government support advisors and also grant programs. So check it all out. I hope you found today useful. Yes, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Campbell. I will be sharing a recording of this session probably towards the end of this week. So thank you, Campbell, for coming. Thank you for your insights. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll catch up very soon.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, guys.